Welcome back, Source Nation. You're listening to Indie Soul Saturdays.
Source Nation, we are back. Welcome back. This is your host, again, James Johnson. You are tuned into Indie Soul Saturdays. Definitely an amazing first hour. I just want to kind of go backwards a little bit and really say thank you, one more time to our guest, at the top of last hour. That was Big Mike, was a part of Day 26. So he's out here embarking on this solo career, and our first hour was definitely devoted to him. He was here in the studios, and we had an amazing time, had an amazing conversation, listened to some great music. You can actually, if you missed the conversation, you can go back and catch that on iTunes later this evening. We'll definitely have that. So definitely something for you to go back and listen to. It was an amazing conversation, and we want to thank him again. Definitely check him out at www.iambigmike.com. And we'll also have all of the social media listed as well. But again, an amazing conversation, and you definitely want to go back and replay that. So now as we move forward, we have another special artist here in the studio today, Mr. Dale Hitch, who otherwise goes by the name of Effects. He's definitely out here doing some really amazing things, really working to build his brand, which is a brand of positivity first and foremost. But his music is definitely amazing. He's out here full force and independently, really working it from the New York area, and we definitely, welcome him here to the show. How's it going today, man?
Okay, great. I'm doing well. I just want to say thank you for having me. This is a great experience. Oh, yeah. And I was checking out your shows, of all the talented artists and the the speakers that you had on board, and that's a great experience. And I love what you guys do, just exuding such positivity.
Well, let me flip that for you, though, and I'm going to say I think it's a great experience to be able to connect with you as well. Obviously, having these conversations, doing interviews, that sort of thing, and really connecting with, a lot of these musicians, artists, comedians, you name it, connecting with people out here who are following their passion. That's been like a dream of mine. So to be able to do that and connect with somebody like you, who's really out here, really making power moves, like you really are doing it, man. Like it's great to have you here on the show, for you to really be that light for so many other people who are trying to do it and they feel like they can't do it. I think it's an amazing thing, and I'm grateful to you for taking the time out. Because at the end of the day, it is Saturday. And it's a whole lot you can find to do on a Saturday, man. So I appreciate you taking this time out to come onto the show.
Absolutely. Thank you, James. And you know what it is really? It comes down to, maturity, right? I mean, we live in our communities. As we grow older, we just can't think that we're going to be, just living life just for the sake of living life. I mean, we got to be able to lead, James. And that's one of the things that I promote, via my music. I want to be able to lead. I want to be able to change people, from people who are going through, trials and tribulations to, people who can better themselves. And that's what I want to do. I want to do that for my people. I want to do that for everyone. Men, women, black, white, it doesn't matter.
Right. Now, kind of talk a little bit, like take us back to the beginning. Like what got you into music? Like how did you get to this point? Or what got you into music, and how did that also take you to where you are right now?
Yeah, music has been in my family for such a long time. And I was actually talking to my cousins about this yesterday. I mean, we just have so much, in our DNA. And, this goes back, and I'm sure you could probably relate, back in the old days, our households had pianos, and, we always, sang hymnal type songs and things like that, church music, and that was great. And actually back then, in the 70s and the 80s, I never really knew what was going to become of it, but I certainly appreciated the environment, how we all gathered around and we sang these songs. And that was sort of like the impetus for me to start, my music career. And then in 1979, my mother passed away, and she was definitely up there as far as music. She liked to play, she liked to listen, and she liked to sing. She always loved to sing. And I think, people who are, artists, or even people who are, who sing in the shower, that type of thing, there's a lot of experience that they're conveying that they otherwise couldn't say on, pen and paper, that sort of thing. So that's kind of like how I got started. And, at that age, hip hop was kind of coming into the limelight and started to become prevalent. And, I kind of gravitated more to that because that was like around the hood thing. I mean, it was great. It was a great vibe. And, we got groups of people together, got members together. And, we actually started breakdancing and doing all kinds of crazy stuff that kids do, It was a great experience. And even then, I still didn't know, that doing those things back then was going to bring me along on this journey.
Right. It's amazing, though, because, what you speak of, even, with music, having been a part of the DNA, that's something that I've lived through as well. And, while I didn't really take it to, I guess, a creative point where I'm an artist or anything like that, I mean, it definitely was something that still resonated, like, obviously in my life, and seeing other people in my family who have, since gone on and become famous and doing different things, and people really, obviously they're really enjoying it. I've been able to kind of witness, and I think that ultimately is what kind of led me in a direction that I've gone.
That's great. I mean, there are some folks, James, that they're into music and they get into music, and they have ulterior motives. And what I mean by that is, they want to, quote unquote, they want to get paid. They want this. They want,
exactly.
They want all the popularity that comes along with it. And while some of that is good, I create music straight from the heart. So I don't have ulterior motives, and music is a universal language that comes from the heart. And that's what I try to instill in my peers and people who are even younger than me. So, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've led this journey. I've been on this journey for such a long time. And, I'm humbled about it. I mean, it's a great experience, and I just have so much to say about it. It's just amazing.
Now, kind of looking at, I mean, you've been around really to witness a lot of the transition of music. So, I mean, you see how difficult a lot of things have become. I mean, I'm sure you also see how easy a lot of things have become over the years as well. But I think that there still is a lot of struggle, that people see out there in the music industry. Like, what are the things that have kept you motivated and, obviously eager to continue pushing, along with your craft and really building your brand?
Sure. That's a great question, James. Technology is probably one of the biggest things. It's helped us. It's helped musicians and producers and artists in many ways. And it's also become, the type of thing where it actually makes things harder. And I'll kind of explain that. When I first started going back into the 80s, I guess like 84 is like my official year when I started. Everything was hardware based. So, these studios, these grandeur type studios, they had 24 track, 32 track boards. Everything was analog. You had, a 2-inch mastering, reel to reel, that sort of thing. Then you had all this. I mean, it's funny that I say that, outboard gear, but that was the gear that we used. We didn't have computers and software since, like we have today. But, that hardware that we had, that's what we used. And I'll be honest with you, I loved it back then because, I got to learn, like, the hardware aspects, of making music and bouncing tracks and things like that. And I think, at that time, James, there weren't a lot of people doing it. I mean, as compared to today. So I think, in those times, since not a lot of people were doing it, it almost seems like the chances of becoming successful were great. But the key is, you had to have, a decent amount of budget, to become successful, because you had to, try to hit records out, and you needed to, rent studio time, and studio time was not cheap, back then. So I really didn't have a lot of money back then. So I kind of like adopted the principle of just using what I could to the best of my abilities and being creative on such a low budget, And then when you look at things now, look at today, the whole music landscape as far as the physical components and aspects of creating it. I mean, you see it, James. Everything is computer based. I mean, you don't go into a studio nowadays and you don't see a computer. I mean, it's computers have marveled the way we record, the way we mix and master music and those types of things. And I think because of that, it's actually become a lot easier, with computers and everything, because you don't really need an IT degree, to understand how to be a music producer. And this is one thing I kind of struggled with and maybe made fun of, but it's all good. it's fun. I mean, we you have to know something about computers, But my whole thing, though, James, is you really got to know a lot about music if you want to be, what they call this electronic music producer, which we have a lot of those out there too. So that's kind of like my that's how I feel about that. So that struggle that that you asked about, I mean, that's an ongoing struggle, that I still have, trying to stay competitive as possible, and and learning things that maybe others probably don't know. There's a lot of stuff out there as far as like editing tools that music producers have access to, and I think a lot of them maybe care not to, because I think we're in this age where, and I'm sure you probably understand this, quantity outdoes quality, and this is one thing I never really understood, because the shelf life of a song nowadays, I mean, it's so short. So what these record companies and these A&R people, what they want you to do is crank out hit after hit after hit in such a short amount of time. And I think music people in general have adopted this concept. And I'm kind of like going backwards, saying, this is great, but we need to start creating masterpieces now. I mean, we have some good music out there now, but let's we need to pump the brakes a little bit, slow it down, and say we're going to focus more on quality, so that if I'm a producer and I'm working for an artist client, I want to make sure he or she has the best possible product. That's that kind of mindset that I'm kind of geared towards.
But you know what? I guess I kind of, like, in terms of shelf life, whatnot, I just think that a lot of people release their music, and then I just think that they don't put a lot into it. And I think a lot of it is really because they just don't know. A lot of times they put this music out and then they're immediately on to the next project, 2 or 3 months later. And a lot of times I just think that they don't really give their music, they don't give it that, that appropriate time for it to really do something. And especially with the way that buyers are now, and, how people support music, a lot of times it has to be out there for some time for people to really catch on to it. Like, it's not like before, or the old days where you put it out there and instantly jump on it and start buying it, and it sells millions of copies. And like that, it's just not doing that anymore. And then I think where a lot of artists go wrong today is that they just don't really have that creative sense anymore. So you kind of have to break away from the norm when you're releasing music. You can't really just expect that people are just going to automatically support it. Like, you got to do something different in terms of getting it in their face and really working with technology. Like, in a lot of ways, technology works for us because, a lot of producers or up and coming producers, they can really do a lot of stuff from home now. It's a lot easier to get the equipment, the software, and that sort of thing. But technology can really work against you as well if you don't keep up with it, and then you don't really utilize it in the way that it could be done. Like, for as much as people talk about, a lot of the, certain artists and the Beyoncés and stuff like that, you got to kind of give it to them, though, in the way that they, that they put her music out right now, and the way they just release it digital and they put it out online, and like, they realize that people are really taking advantage of the online thing, and they're not really putting as much in stores anymore. And you have a lot of artists who really haven't necessarily caught on to that yet.
Correct. I couldn't agree more. And, it's kind of like what I was saying. And I think what kind of makes me different from a lot of other music producers, is that I've grown up with live music and acoustic instruments. And I think we're kind of starting to see that come back in many ways. I mean, look at different things. Like you look at apparel, how things, of the 70s and 80s, that we used to rock, James, right? You remember now,
Yeah.
and then like the 90s came, and we're like, wow, that stuff was old. But that stuff came back, and then like the hairstyles, those old hairstyles that we had, they came back. And you look at automobiles, they're trying to go with, older style and make something new out of it, but give it that like nostalgic feeling, So that's kind of like what I want to do with music, and I think we're starting to see, a lot of that. I mean, and one good example I can relate to, a great artist, Bruno Mars. I mean, he really has done something different with music, something that I gravitate to, and he has a huge following, and I would like to see, more of that, in regards to someone who's, an established, pop R&B soul artist.
But you know what? I think we are going to see more of what he's doing, and I love the fact that you're out here, and I'm happy that you spoke on the fact that you do a lot with the acoustics and the live instrumentation, and because a lot of people have really stuck to a lot of I guess the machinery and just what the software programs can do, and they're not
right.
really using a lot of instrumentation. But I think it's good that you're still out there, because you're inspiring a lot of people, and I do think that is coming back. I mean, a lot of that is cycling around, even just with music in general. I'm hearing so many artists today, like young artists who are under 20. They're under 18, and they're pulling
right.
samples from many people of the 80s and people of the 70s and some people
right.
of the 90s. Like, I think that they're really starting to get a much better ear for a lot of what was out there, and they're starting to appreciate the things that were out there before. So it definitely looks good for people like yourself, though.
Yeah, I agree, and that's the one thing, James. And I know we really don't have time to talk about the sampling aspect. I could literally speak volumes on that, how that all came about. Sampling was actually like developed in like the 60s, and there were groups and artists that used what's called it's like a tape sampler, and what it was is like a piano or a keyboard or something like that, and would like have pre-stamped samples on it. And it was very, very archaic, but that's led us up to the point where sampling now, as you can see, has become like a staple mate in music recording. And
oh yeah,
it's one of those things we gotta again, we have to really, really be careful of because obviously from copyright infringement aspects, we have to make sure our samples are cleared, number one, or royalty-free samples, and there are markets for that too. So, and I guess the reason why I bring that up is, since sampling, inspires, a lot of, artists and producers and people like that. I feel like, creating live situations, you're basically creating the sample that people want to, hopefully use in the future, because that means, something must be great about, the excerpt of what you just recorded. And I mean, James Brown is a perfect example. I mean, he's been sampled and oversampled, over the decades. So, I hope to be like that James Brown type one day.
I think it will happen, man. I definitely think it'll happen. But what I'm going to do, because I know time is rolling on, I'm going to actually transition over into your music now. So the first one that we're going to play here is Heaven Sent. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah, Heaven Sent. That was that's one that I wrote. And I wrote it because, I was I'm touched spiritually about, how music has, infused my life. And, God provides a lot, James. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote it, because I'm basically saying thanks to him for giving me these abilities, that I have. Things that I never thought I could do, that I'm actually doing. And so that's the reason why I wrote that song. And that's actually one of my most favorite tracks, on the EP.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and play that. This is Dale Hitch with Heaven Sent right here on Indie Soul Saturdays. It definitely puts me in the mind of I used to buy a lot of music where basically there were no vocals over the music, but it just was like if you think of like the Art of Noise and
Right.
a lot of the stuff that he put out there. I used to buy a lot of music like that. Like that's kind of what this puts me in the mind frame of. Like I definitely love it though.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And that's kind of, groups like that, Najee, Miles Davis, and to an extent,
Right.
Masters at Work, like even DJ Premier, on the hip hop side, Joe Sample, just those type of artists, that sort of, inspired me. Herbie Hancock was actually one of my first, and you remember the track he had, out in the
Yeah.
80s. So that's what I wanted to do, and I honestly, I think I was very successful at doing it. So, I'm going to keep that energy going as much as possible.
And I love the fact that you mentioned them because I grew up to a lot of like Herbie Hancock and Najee and Pieces of a Dream, Hiroshima,
Right.
like a lot of
Right.
jazz music and a lot of that stuff I grew up to.
Yeah, I mean that music, especially instrumental music, James, it brings a whole new aspect, to music itself. I mean, I love music that has vocals, vocals that speak to you, but when you're the conveyor of music, of instrumental music, it's almost like, yeah, you're writing the music, but then you want to have your audience envision like what the vocals would be if vocals were striped down to it, and that's kind of like the something that I've always wanted to do. And
Right.
I think of different songs, my own instrumental songs, with vocals. So it's an interesting aspect to music, because I mean, largely vocalists, become Grammy Award winners and Billboard Music Award winners, So, but they don't, I think, understand the aspects of the music, the underlying music is what's making the song hot too, and
Right.
that's why I advocate, the music that I stand behind.
What are some of the biggest changes that obviously you've been doing this for 33 years. Like what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen out there that you feel are ultimately like helping you now and like really putting you in that place of success?
Great question. Think that having access, having the access to, different folks of different, different in different aspects of music and, A&R people. And I kind of remember, back in the day, it was very, very difficult, to get a hold of, a lot of these folks because, we didn't have email servers and things like that. You had to break down the door of a record company and demand that, your cassette tape, your demo tape would get heard, But now, a lot of companies actually publish, lists where you have access to A&R people, and they're willing to, to listen to your material. That's number one. And then the social media aspect of it too. A lot of them are embedded in these groups that you don't even know, but they're, they have their ears listening, to, what you're putting out there. So, I just hope that people, folks who are providing music, I hope they're putting out, what, they would want accepted. So I think
Right.
the access is definitely the big change, where it's much better now than I would say was in the 80s or even the 90s.
Steps of Confidence. That's the next one we're going to play. So talk a little bit about that one.
Oh, Steps of Confidence. Well, Steps of Confidence is probably my most popular track, and what it does is, it conveys the fact that, through life and through all these types of situations that we're in, we have to walk with confidence. And it's not being cocky or anything like that, James. What it says to other people is that, you're going to hold your head up high and you're going to walk with humility and you're going to get to your destination one way or another. And that's one thing that I think kind of I gravitate to, is because, in the past, I never really, thought about doing it. Being very passive doesn't get you far, on your journey, and my journey happens to be in music. But when you walk with confidence, people see that. So that's one of the reasons why, I named it that and included it on my EP.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and play that. This is Dale Hitch with Steps of Confidence right here on Indie Soul Saturdays. I love that, man. Like I could see myself like just cruising through the streets playing that.
Yeah, that's actually what I kind of bump in my ride. I'll be honest with you. It's just I kind of make my music for the cars, because I have this thing, James, when you're driving, we do probably the most thinking like when we're driving. And I'm not talking about commuting. I'm talking about, just like leisurely driving. Just picture yourself. It's like a Sunday afternoon, sun is shining, temperatures are warm. You're just driving along, like the boulevard along the beach.
Yep.
That's the kind of music that I'm trying to convey to people. So, and most of that music that I've created, kind of gives you that feeling. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It definitely does. Like I definitely really enjoy it. And just like you said, like most people, I do a lot about thinking while I'm in the car. So that definitely goes good with my commute wherever I'm going. So like I think it's dope. Like, are you releasing, I guess, full projects of music like that, or like how does it look like in terms of you getting this music out there for more people to hear it?
Yeah, right now, I'm. So here's the thing, right? So, I being an artist, is, believe it or not, it's kind of like what I really don't want to do. I'm more of a background dude, so I kind of like being a music producer. So I'm kind of juggling those things, James, right? So I have ongoing projects right now as a producer. So I have artist clients that I'm working on. So, but I did announce the other day that I'm going to be working on. Oh, it's going to be spectacular. It's New Eurekan soul music, and I'm sure you might have heard of it before. But it's Latin-based soul and house music, and it's something else. And that's one aspect that I probably most recently got into. So that's probably one of the projects I'm going to be. I've actually already embarked on it. I'm hoping by the end of, the fourth quarter of this year, I'll have it all completed. But, it hinges on the schedules of, work with these other clients.
Right. I do think it would be pretty dope, though. Like, I think back, and I haven't really seen a lot of producers necessarily do that, but I think back to when Dr. Dre, he had put out the Chronic 2001, or whichever album that, and at some point or another, he released basically just an instrumentals of it. And there's a lot of people that really into buying, the instrumental albums and whatnot, just to kind of be able to listen through.
Right. Definitely, that was one of the hot albums, Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
I actually have it in my record crate, and some people laugh, but vinyl was in then, and I actually missed it.
I was taking it way back with the crate, man. But that's hot though, because it's like people have gotten away from that.
Right, I think so. And we talked about early in the show, about going back to those sort of things. I'm actually hoping that vinyl does make some sort of reappearance, maybe in like in a different form. Especially for like the DJ aspect of things. I mean, I used to be a DJ. Yeah. That's actually what I started before, I got into music production. And, now what you see today, guys are up there pressing buttons and all kinds of crazy.
Right.
I don't really call it DJing. It's more like entertainment of some sort.
It is.
I
wish vinyl would make its way back. Like I miss a lot of that, man. Like those, to me, those were the days.
Yeah, they were. They definitely were. And the little nuances, right? You had to make sure you had really, really good turntable cartridges. I know my brothers and sisters out there. I'm actually Facebook Live right now, and I'm sure a lot of them can gravitate because I have a lot of music people on my in my circle, and a lot of them are DJs, and some old, some new, so they may or may not understand, but you had to have really, really good cartridges, and I think Autofon was like one of the manufacturers that seems to come to mind. They had to be really, really good quality, cartridges, because it was less likely that your records would skip, because you know how it is though, James. Your record skips, you just throw it apart.
Exactly. Exactly, but I do miss those times though, and it's funny that we talk about vinyl coming back because I've been working with a partner of mine, here in my city where she launched a radio station as well, and she's really gotten back into kind of the essence of DJing, and she's got the turntables, and she's actually spinning when she goes out to parties and whatnot. And I think that's so dope because so many people are not doing that anymore.
Right. A lot of people are not, and I don't really understand why. Actually, one of my cousins, he's into that sort of thing. And a lot of it is, opportunity. Spinning records, whatever. I mean, what are they using? Tractor and these other programs. There's so many different DJ programs. I mean, I mentioned about music production programs, but you have these DJ programs too. Serato, that's one of them. I'm not really sure if they really enjoy it, as much as we enjoyed it, because I mean, just the physical aspects of spinning records is just something else. Now there's another side to it too, James. It was very it was very tiresome. Right at the end of the parties or whatever. I mean, we couldn't wait for it to end. It was just, you're so exhausted. You have to perform all this work, and then right now you think about it, you're looking at like, I don't know, 40, 50 crates of records. It's like, whoa, I did all this work, and now I have to break all of this stuff down, and you're exhausted. And see, you don't have that nowadays. You just close the laptop up and you're done.
Right.
So it's different, and maybe that's one of the reasons why some kind of shy away from it, and others they stay true to their craft. And you have to appreciate the era that we grew up in, though, James. Right? The turntables. I mean, that's where it came from. That's how it all got started. With hip hop, and now you got all these other genres of music. Techno and house, deep house music, and so many. So that's how it all started. Was analog. Loved it.
Most definitely. So we got one more song here that we're gonna play by you. Mind Over Matter. Kind of speak a little bit to that.
Oh, Mind Over Matter. Oh yeah, great. I sent you. I think I might have sent part 2. Mind Over Matter is great because I'm a very I'd say cognitive when it comes to different ideas. And I think our brains are we don't utilize them enough like we should. So I would like for my fans, my followers, to get into the aspect of listening to this song, which is why I created it, and think about their own lives and how their own lives can actually influence the lives of others. I think that's what we need more of. We can't just live our lives, like I said, just for the sake of living life. I mean, we have to really get deep and very cognitive, in that aspect. So that's one of the reasons why, I put this track on the album.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and play, and this is part 2 that you sent us, by the way. So we're gonna actually go into this now. This is Mind Over Matter Part 2 by Dale Hitch right here on Indie Soul Saturdays. I think definitely hot, man. Is definitely something that I imagine that a lot of people are really enjoying it. Like your music is definitely doing really good here on the station, though. So
Thank you. I appreciate it. Can I ask you how do you track the the amount of listeners that listen to your songs? Just out of curiosity.
well, in terms of the tracking, it's pretty much all done by, I believe. Who did you speak with to set everything up? Was it Andrea or was it Kathy?
It was Andrea. Yes.
Okay, because I'm pretty sure that she does a majority of the tracking. I know that Kathy is doing quite a bit of it as well, but they pretty much track all of it and then, kind of disseminate just the results and, how everything goes there. So I pretty much know how it's doing, but exactly how they're tracking it, I couldn't even tell you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. I can't say enough about you guys for playing.
Kathy is sending me a message right now. She's saying that she actually has a particular software that she uses to track how many people are listening, how many people are actually, replaying the streams and all of that stuff, and then listening, obviously, on the station as well.
Okay, great. Thanks. And that's what we touched on, James, right? You could never imagine doing this in the 80s and 90s, right? We didn't have this. Everything was, we had traditional, radio stations and things like that. And that was the only way, music got played, but now we have so much, we can track this and that, and everything's a metric. And, for me to keep up, it's like next to impossible.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm self-managed, at this point. And so I have to do all the stuff that's back office. And of course, I have to be the face of effects. That's my name. So I have to do all the physical aspects of creating the music. And so that's another thing that I struggle with, because you have to be able to keep up. You have to keep up with the Facebook posts and the Instagram posts and this and that. And I'm not perfect at it, but it's a lot. So,
like, to hear you say all of that, that totally resonates with what really goes on in my brand as well. And I mean, within my brand itself, aside from doing, hosting Indie Soul Saturdays, hosting UGD Live, and then hosting City Watch on another network, I also publish a magazine. I do websites and web design for a few different clients. I actually manage artists. I have a PR firm, and I'm not necessarily I'm kind of self-managed well. And most publishers or most people that you have that are doing magazines, they generally have someone who books all of their talent, somebody who books the people that are going to be in the issue and that sort of thing.
Right.
Whereas I do all of that myself. And then I do all of the social media branding as well. So, I mean, I push this social media. Sometimes I feel like I pushed it as far as I could ever push it. And then sometimes I'm like, okay, well, I guess I could do a little bit more. But, I mean, I've pushed the Instagram up to where, I mean, it's almost 100,000 followers. So, I mean, I can't really knock that. And then the Twitter is almost at 10,000. So, it's difficult, but it's definitely doable. And I think that by you, I mean, definitely mentioning the fact that you're self-managed, it really puts a whole different view on everything it is that you're doing, because you're doing like an amazing job, and you're doing the job of somebody that's really managed by somebody, or somebody that's handling everything in the background, whereas you're doing it all. So, like, I think it speaks volumes just in terms of obviously your work ethic, and just the fact that, like, you've done your homework and you know what it is that you're doing out here.
Absolutely. And just to touch on that, James, it's a lot of it is, how it is, especially like in the corporate world. When you manage yourself, just like in a corporation, I mean, you have deadlines you have to meet. You have all of these things, and, you have to outline goals, as to, what do you want to accomplish and when do you want to accomplish it? And, like last year in 2016, I was able to get into 3 magazines, which were great. I needed that boost. Overtime Hustling was one, and Rude Boy Magazine was another, and then there's like another one, which the name escapes me. But that took a lot of coordination, because you have to send these folks your material, and of course pay them like an upfront fee just for processing and things like that. But those are the behind-the-scenes things that, most people who are not involved in music, don't see. They just hear, what's on SoundCloud. That's great. but it is a lot of work, and I'm sure you're exhausted by doing all that work because I know I am.
Man, by all means I am, but it's cool though. Like I love what it is that I'm doing, and I think that's the thing that drives me to keep going is because I'm actually doing what I love. So, and a lot of people don't really have that luxury to be working in something that they love. A lot of people are working jobs that they hate to go to, but they got to go to them to make sure the bills are paid. So I finally got to that point where I'm doing what I love. So like I couldn't complain about it one day because it's something that I like to do.
Right. That's interesting. I'm actually in a one of my jobs, my day job. I actually love doing it, believe it or not. And that's
I'm not gonna
rare.
lie,
You don't
day job too, but
I actually enjoy.
I have a night job, but
oh, you got a night job, right?
Yeah, so I do the 11 to 7 thing, but it's like once I leave there, it's like this all day long. So I still love it though.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Oh boy.
But it goes to show though, it really just reiterates the fact that like you're doing a really good job with everything that you're doing. And I think at one point it was unheard of for people to be doing one thing or doing what they love to do and then still have a night job as well, where like today I think that's kind of the norm, is that people are, you kind of got yourself spread out into different buckets because yeah, you love to do all of this, but it's so much that everybody wants out there. Like you got to keep the money coming in. So it's like people have those day jobs and they have those night jobs, and then everything else is almost like they're moonlighting. But it's cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
It works. It definitely works.
Absolutely. And just to touch on that too, I'm actually I had a small part in an independent film. It was called Inconvenient Ruth. Which is great. And I'm actually doing some voiceovers for another movie that the same producer is doing. So I don't know. The best word that describes it is ubiquity, right? We're in this age. You kind of have to do a lot. You have to be everywhere. Because I kind of feel bad, James, if I'm missing out on opportunities. And being based in New York City, there's a lot of stuff going on. Symposiums and shows and different venues. That I feel like, I'm missing out on. Obviously, I can't attend everything, but you know what? I'm going to try my best. So that's kind of like the mindset I'm in, I just don't stay on one track. I try to do different things because it's all entertainment, at the end of the day.
I agree with that 100%. So like how can people keep up with you? Where can they check you out? Where can they, obviously hear more of your music and see the different things that you have going on?
My music's on SoundCloud. That's one place I, use as a repository. And then also I use Reverb Nation. But I need to keep up with that. Again, we go back to that aspect of keeping up with the behind the scenes, the back office stuff. So right now, most of my current music is on SoundCloud.
Okay.
It's SoundCloud. I don't know if I sent Andrew the link, but it's FX-NY Music. And it's linked to my Facebook. So they could check me out, and a lot of my fans and followers have, checked me out and commented, on the material. And like I said, before it gets uploaded, I make sure it leaves the shop, with great intentions and with the quality, because that's the thing, like you said before, quality of assurance. We don't seem to have that a lot in music, and it's just. We got to get this out. We got to get this. We got to do 10 tracks by Tuesday. It's like we got to stop making this like an assembly line, and start making music like it's music.
Right. I agree with that 100%, man. Any type of words of encouragement, final comments, anything that you really want to get out there as we close out?
Yeah, I think that listen, we all want to inspire. Or want to be inspired, I should say, by something. And music is that universal language, James. It just, the right song, the right lyrics, whatever, hits you. And I want to be that one, that inspires, people by, the tens, the hundreds, the thousands, the millions. Literally, I do. And I think, the basis for my music, is sets a precedent for that because it is inspiring, it is uplifting, and I think that if you listen to the melodies embedded into the tracks, it makes you feel good about ourselves. Makes us feel good about ourselves, and that's what we want. There's nothing like, and you've heard it, James. These hip hop songs and all these things that are just talking about, it's the drugs, the guns, the degrading of women. It's like that stuff. I just refuse to listen to. I don't support it. I'm not an advocate of it. And
right.
we especially people of color, we need to galvanize and we need to uplift ourselves, because it's utmost important, that we do that, because that's something that is not necessarily taught in school, as we call primary education, but that's something that I want to do, and I want to do it via the avenue of music.
I think that's really great. I want to thank you again for taking the time out today, man. I think that you've imparted a lot of wisdom upon the listeners today, and I think it's great. I don't think that they really get that from a lot of people, and, especially on the production side, you don't really hear from a lot of producers just in general. Like a lot of them, they stay on the background. So it's one thing that they want to be in the background. They kind of stay there, and they don't really do like any type of press, any type of promotion, anything like that. But I think it's amazing that you took the time out to come and speak, with the Source Nation today. I just think it's really amazing overall. And so many people are getting so much out of the conversation today alone. And that conversation, I am going to have that uploaded to iTunes. So we do have a podcast in iTunes for Indie Soul Saturday, and then anybody can go back, download that conversation, and listen to it as much as they want. We'll have it on the website as well, but most definitely they can get it there in iTunes for those who have Apple devices and whatnot. And, again, I really appreciate you for coming on to the show today. And by all means, anytime you feel like you want to come back on, just say the word. We can definitely get you on. We'll be doing a lot more like live video streaming, so we can even do something where you're in your studio and we kind of, bring that in for people to be able to see that. And I think it'll be great. I think it's great for entertainment, great for music, and definitely great for the show. So I appreciate you.
James, thank you. I can't say enough about you, and what you do, and having, independent artists on, networks like this. I mean, this is great. It's a great platform, because, to be honest with you, we have voices. We want to be heard. And, a lot of times we struggle because we can't be heard. We can't go out there and a lot of times and get what we want. But, just to kind of end things, look at like Chance the Rapper. He set a bar. He set a bar that's so high. Being an independent artist, and not being signed to, a record label. I don't know if people understand that. That's paramount right there. That is deep. And,
I don't even,
and he,
looking at that, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like looking at what he's done, like I don't want to seem like the pessimist, but I don't even know if that'll ever be done again. Like I think
you're right.
I think it's to a level where nobody works that hard, and for as hard as we all know that people need to work, nobody really works that hard. And the problem with a lot of independent artists is that they become independent because nobody wants to sign them. So it's not like they get to a point where they say, I want to be independent and I really want to do this for myself. A lot of people become independent because they don't have any other choice if they want to put music out. And when they start doing it, they see how much work it is. Like a lot of the people who choose to go independent, a lot of them turn right back around. And I can say without saying any names, there's a number of names that I could say of artists who went independent within the last year and they turned right back around and they went back to a major because they see the work that's involved in it, and nobody really wants to put in that much time. They don't want to have sleepless nights and be riding in the car and trying to figure out how am I going to do this and how am I going to do that, and have to put everything together themselves. They realize that, okay, if I don't get up out the bed and do XYZ today, then I'm not going to make no money. And I don't feel like getting up today, so I need to find somebody to do it for me. Like, you're self-managed. So you know already all of the stuff that you have to do. to really get
Mm-hmm.
yourself out there. Then you got to do 2 times that to keep yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
a lot of people are not really ready to do that. So you have somebody like him who clearly has put in the work. Like he's clearly put in the work. And to be doing things like that, to donate the type of money that he has donated, you know, just to the inner city and to the school system,
right.
and like bar none, that's like paramount, just like you said. And so many people aren't doing it. They're just not doing it. So I don't, like I said, I don't want to be pessimistic, but I don't know if it'll really happen anytime soon again.
I hope it does. I mean, I hope others will follow.
Yeah, I want it to.
Yeah, believe me, you and me both. You know, and we got to maybe we have to do what he did or something, you know, along those lines. I'm certainly open to any suggestions. And this is, you know, that's the other thing. I know I speak a lot, I talk a lot, but you know, this is the other thing. You know, I have 33 years, you know, in the background. But actually, you know, I may be a teacher of, you know, of music and advise a lot of people. I'm also learning. I'm learning a lot, and especially learning about the business. The business now is definitely not the same business as it was in the 80s and 90s. It's completely different. The streaming companies, the this and the data rates and who gets paid and, you know, that sort of thing, and the royalty cut. You know, so there are things that I'm learning, you know, to this day and age, and you know, I kind of put my head into the books and read up upon these things. So I'm open to any suggestions, and maybe, you know, you and I we have an offline conversation about, you know, being the chance the rapper, you know, for producers.
Man, look, I'm with that. I think the offline conversation is good. We just connected on Facebook, so I think it's definitely dope. I think the offline conversation is good because I would love to see this like continue to happen. Definitely for independent. Like I feel like I'm way more partial to the struggle of the independent artist. And I mean, obviously with my magazine, like I cover the independent artists, and I also cover like the bigger artists. Like a lot of the bigger artists have done the cover of my magazine. So I mean, I would be lying to say that, you know, I'm not fascinated by some of them, and some of them, you know, they really are. They do make up what the magazine is, but I am a little bit more partial to the independent artist because there's so much work that goes into it, and there's so much, to me, there's so much more reward in it. Like when you do good, and when you do like the things that you're doing, or you do the things that Mike McClooney, who was on in the first hour from Day 26, like the things that he's doing, you know, independently and really, really working hard, like you really see it. And as an artist, you profit a little bit more, I think. I think there's just so much more reward in it. You know, with me.
I agree.
So I agree. Partial to the independent artists. And that's why this platform really works for me. Like Indie Soul Saturdays was around long before I came into it. I've been doing it for 2 years, but it was here long before. And I just think that the platform is amazing that, you know, Source Radio Network really offers with this show, because without shows like this, a lot of independent artists are not going to be heard. Like they're not going to be heard on the radio.
Absolutely.
You would think.
Absolutely.
You would think that they would, but they're not, though.
And they're not. And, you know, actually one of the things I didn't mention earlier was, you know, I was involved in radio back in the 90s. So I was involved in college radio, WBAU 90.3. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. But it was a college radio station, and I was the resident DJ there, and I used to, we used to play, you know, published music, and we used to play instrumental music and music that I created, you know, myself. And, you know, that's a great platform for that because, you know, unlike, you know, traditional terrestrial radio, which, again, is another conversation we can speak about, you know, they're guided in such a way that it's very, you know, it's politically motivated, for lack of a better term. So that's why I'm glad that, you know, the Source Nation radio, this is such a great platform. I hope it keeps going. You know, let's just perpetuate this greatness, please.
Definitely will. So again, thank you for coming onto the show today.
Thank you, James. I appreciate it, and definitely we're going to link up. Appreciate it.
I think we definitely will, and then we'll make sure that we get everything out there. We'll send you all the appropriate links that you need, and then we'll also send over, the link to the conversation from today, which will be on iTunes. I'll send that link over to you as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You have a good one.
Great. You too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, most definitely. And there you have it, Source Nation. We have wrapped up the second hour of Indie Soul Saturdays today, and that actually concludes the show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It definitely was an amazing show with Dale Hitch for our second hour, and we also had Mike McClooney, who's also known as Big Mike, who many people remember from Day 26. He was in our first hour. Definitely want to say thanks to everybody. Want to give a special shout-out to Miss Irene Renee, who is responsible for sending us a few clients today. So we're really grateful to her as well. I want to give a special shout-out to the big boss. That's Miss Kathy, who over here at Source Radio Network. I definitely want to say thank you to her for being here in the studio with me today. Want to give a shout-out to Miss Tracy, who will be back with us soon. And just grateful for everybody tuning in. Definitely check us out next week. We'll be back here same time and same place right here on Source Radio Network with Indie Soul Saturdays.
Get at me for beats, yo.